So far, we've had a good week of practice. I think our team's getting better, and we've got to mature. We've got to be ready for a road environment where maybe we're not as comfortable as we are at home, and make enough plays. I still don't think we were that far away in a couple of those games, and it's not a mystery. I think break down the film, and each game's got a different storyline, and we've got to be really good against a team that's got a lot of experience, and they have a great home environment there, and some firepower, I think, with Trace Tinkle and Ethan Thompson and Kyler Kelly, Zach Reichel. All those guys have been playing really well, and they've been playing a lot of reps for many years in our conference. So go in there and not do the things that beat ourselves, and try to give ourselves an opportunity to win and be competitive. Yeah.
You talked about the defense has kind of kept you guys in games these last little bit. I mean, how do you jumpstart the offense, knowing that obviously they can do it? I mean, they've had games where they're able to do well, but maybe what's been the difference there to kind of get that going?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if you look statistically, Stanford's leading our conference in defense. Cal plays really hard, really good defense, so it's not supposed to be easy. I think each game, it presents a different set of challenges, but I think tempo is a big part of it. Finding the opportunity to run, and maybe there's times on offense that we need to catch our breath and make sure, when we call a set, it takes all five guys. I do think there's been some breakdowns, whether it's one person that's not doing the right thing, making a hard enough cut, setting a great screen, being screened. Sometimes we get our big guys in foul trouble because we're whether it's pick and roll or receiving a away from the ball type of screen, but it takes two to tango, and so we've got to clean that up, and then we do plenty of shooting. When you earn yourself a shot and you get it, you have to knock it down. That's at the end of the day, when everything goes perfectly and you get the shot that you're hoping your team gets, we have to knock them down. So maybe numbers wise, we haven't been stellar, but still to be in a situation where it's not like we're inept. Our defense has kept us in some games, and I think if you're going to go through ebbs and flows and cycles throughout the course of a season, I'd like to save our bullets for about now. So let's get it clicking. A lot of it's confidence, a lot of it's execution. And then I think we have to do ourselves a favor and not put ourselves in harm's way. Let's do what we're good at. And we've got enough of a sample size now with all of our guys that we should be avoiding certain shots. We should be taking advantage of certain opportunities, and hopefully we can start, buying into that going down the stretch run, and make sure that we're always willing to pass up a good shot to try to get a great one. So, there's a lot of factors, Josh. Part of that too is, and we've had this happen a number of times where we've shot faked ourselves covered. We'll be open and get the kind of shot that we need. You hear the moans and groans. I'm not going to call out any certain guys on our team, but when we're open, we have to shoot it, because when we don't shoot it, that's really as problematic as taking a bad shot. So I think it's just some roles and playing some reps and getting used to what it is we're trying to do, and hopefully this is the time of year where there's not a whole lot of learning going on, and we can go out and play a little bit more fluidly and jump up and knock them down.
Maybe don't expect a near triple-double out of him every game, but has the bar kind of been raised with Branden Carlson as far as his role on this team? And what's been the biggest key to his development as the season's gone on?
Yeah, I don't think, we're never going to put any, any major pressure on anybody, Dana, really, and ask them to do things that they're not capable of doing. I think what we're seeing from Branden, he's got a heck of a spirit about him right now. He knows it's hard. And I think when we got into league play, maybe early on, right around Christmas time, it was a little bit of a grind for he and some of our other younger guys that didn't know how hard this was going to be. But he's playing the game lower, much more stable and in a stance, and he's not bouncing off of people. Let's face it, he's not going to gain 20 pounds anytime soon. Hopefully in the off season we can get some of those guys beefed up, but in the meantime, it's kind of like the football analogy, the line of scrimmage. It's always who's playing lower, and he's figured that out, I think. and he's just playing with some confidence. See him running around and smiling. I think there's less of a thought process with he and a number of our guys that they're not, paralyzed by the old paralysis by analysis, where you're thinking about too many things. And so I think we've simplified, and they've heard what it is we're trying to do, both offensively and defensively, enough that they can kind of go and trust their instincts and get after it a little bit. And I think finally he's getting in better shape also. So that's a big part of it, and we've just got to make sure we keep him out of foul trouble. A little bit of what Jakob Pertl went through his freshman year, where he spent a lot of time on the bench, kind of being the reactor rather than the actor. And it's all part of a process, but we need some inside presence from him, and he's playing with a lot of confidence, and it's fun to see some of the growth.
You mentioned Jakob in his freshman year, and with Brandon, how much of that was Jakob, and how much of that was the coaching staff kind of in the offseason coaching him up? And then now that you've had some similar player like that, is it easier to kind of translate some of that stuff and let him know how past players have done that?
Well, I mean, Jakob is maybe not a fair comparison. Jakob was a guy that gained almost 25 pounds during his freshman year, which I still don't know how. And I'm pretty certain Rock isn't using any steroids over there. So for any of you people that might be guessing, but no, it's all clean. But you burn so many calories, during a basketball season, and to have a surplus. He was 220 when he showed up, and he was 242 at the end of his freshman campaign. So a lot of that credit goes to Jakob. It's hard to gain weight. It's hard to gain good weight, and I'm raising a bunch of skinny boys, and girls, and they're growing and they need a lot of fuel. But when they tap out and get full at the table, if you really want to take the next step and gain some good weight, you got to eat like a horse. And so I think that was one of the things that helped him. And, a couple months left in the season, less than that. We're down to 5-6 weeks. So, he's not going to gain a lot of weight. But what we will do at the end of a freshman campaign is you sit down and you look at, the body of work and a whole bunch of clips offensively and defensively. And you sit down and you talk about this process of how you're going to get better. And you always know you always see your own warts. Right, so it's after a year together, we know areas he's deficient in, and you address those. And in Jakob's case, it was free throw shooting and slowing down in the post and playing stronger. So a lot of those things, and we look forward to doing that with Brandon and everybody else, when the season's over. But this is kind of about the 6 miles to go in this marathon, that you've been talking about. And it's a grind, and it's a survival of the fittest, and let's just get there. And we don't have a whole lot of time. It's not a lot of time to improve right now. You're not going to go work on individual things, but you just continue to do what you do well and bring that to the table, and you try to stay connected as a team and get as many W's as you can. And then we'll move into that skill development and more of a personalized improvement when we hit springtime.
Obviously, Timmy was very consistent for you last week, and Riley's been a consistent rebounder. Can you just address those two situations?
Yeah, consistency is a big part of it, Dirk. You gotta be able to remain consistent even when shots aren't going in. I think we put a lot of emphasis on our rebounding game, and I'm really pleased. I think we've got one of our better rebounding teams since we've been here. In terms of taking care of percentages and defensive boards, and even at times getting some offensive rebounds. That's got to be a staple from our bigs. I would challenge Mickey and Riley to go out. I've always been a rebound per minute kind of guy. Like, to me, you're a good rebounder if you can get a rebound every 4 minutes. And between Mickey and Riley, they're both closer to a rebound every 6 minutes. So I would, challenge those guys to go get more. Timmy's in the top 10, maybe rebounding wise. And that's something that he has to remain consistent in. He's more rebounds per minute than maybe our 4 men, but the rebounding is a big part of it, as you know, and being consistent and not having to do a bunch of blockout rebounding drills on a daily basis this time of year, because it puts you at a high propensity to get into some injuries and concussions. That's where the sparks are flying, but to be able to talk about it a little bit and get after it and know with both of these teams coming up this weekend, they're really good rebounding teams, and that's going to be a big part of it. I've always said that the exclamation point on the end of the defensive sentence is the rebound. That's how you finish it. And you can be really dang good defensively, but if you're just mediocre or average getting the rebound, then you're not going to be very good defensively. And I've always said the same thing. You could be kind of average and mediocre on defense, which we're not, but you could be an elite off a defensive rebounding team, and it bumps you up some categories when you don't give up second shots. So the rebounding, to me, you want to be good at the things that happen a lot, and certainly there's plenty of shots being taken, both offensively and defensively, and that's something that I'm proud of our guys for hanging in there. And sometimes you need your guards getting involved and cracking back on the big guys, and for the most part, I have been really pleased with where we are with that.
When it comes to defense, how much of that is just the natural talent of these guys that are able to do that versus a lot of them just buying in, knowing that that's what you're preaching?
Well, no, I can't say that we've got a natural team that's designed to guard a bunch of people. I think we need to do it collectively. We've actually been exposed in some one-on-one situations, and that's where I always bring up Jerry Sloan's, the GYFG. And even this last weekend, that hurt us, I thought. When in the Stanford game, we had a nice little cushion, and then we went through a stretch 8 or 10 points where we just couldn't guard the guy that was standing in front of us. And so I think it's a scheme is very important, but you also have to have a playground mentality where you didn't have a coach telling you how you were going to cover things. You just needed to guard your guy. And so I do think we're taking some pride in it. Our numbers have gotten better, and our pick and roll defense has gotten better. Our defensive transition has gotten better, and those are keys. The scramble defense is a big part of success. When things aren't going well, you're broken down, maybe an offensive rebound, a pass out, some of that scramble-minded stuff where you don't have your guy anymore, but we have to guard the ball collectively. Being the only thing in the gym that scores points is the ball. So I think our team's grown in that capacity too, where early on they almost took the GYFG thing literally, and everybody was guarding their guy, but we were forgetting to guard the ball and maybe be in a pack line mentality to keep it out of the paint or the scramble stuff. So it's been a work in progress, but we are going to play defense. We have to, and trust each other. Yep.
This time of year, the last 4 or 5 years, we've talked about trying to get that number 4 seed in the Pac-12 tournament. Now that there's 6-7 games left in the conference season, is that something that you're thinking about as far as getting there? It didn't help the last couple of years, but still a goal, I would assume, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's always been a goal, and we've got 7 games to go. It might be a little premature. I think by the end of this weekend, you'll know whether you're in those discussions. That's just one of the ways you try to get to the NCAA tournament is winning the Pac-12 tournament. And certainly to play 3 games versus 4, it's like getting at Vegas and you're doing one of those, what are they called? The parlays, right? There's a big difference between winning a 3-team parlay and a 4-team parlay, and it goes up exponentially to tack on another one. So, but yeah, you're right. We've earned ourselves a bye, I think, the last 3 years. If not maybe the last 5 years, and it's been the last 3 years where we haven't won a game. We've run into the Oregon buzzsaw a couple times. So it's not a cure-all. It's something that you can earn, and maybe it helps you in the big picture of winning that tournament. But we haven't talked about it a lot this year. We're going to keep grinding, and you got to win a couple games, in the near future here to be in that discussion, to put yourself in the upper half, to be in striking distance. So we'll see, maybe have some of those discussions next week if we can take care of some business this weekend.
And then I don't know if you saw, it was kind of one of the funnier moments. Jakob checked into the game with the Spurs without his jersey on. Did you see
We taught
that?
him well, didn't we?
What's the most embarrassing thing you've seen on the court, or maybe that's happened to you even during your playing
I
days?
dream about it all the time. I've never actually, I think I've dreamed about things like that so often that I've been out there for starting lineups and actually looked down and I don't have any clothes on. So nothing live, that I'm embarrassed about, but I've had plenty of dreaming moments where things haven't gone exactly well, and I'm sure that made Pop happy at San Antonio to have Jakob check it. That might have been the game that he only played about 10 minutes. So typically, that's a lesson you learn. You probably make that mistake one time. So yeah, it's if he would have stayed for his junior and senior year, we probably could have got that dialed in here.
I guess you can't get away without talking about Booth. Any update?
Nope.
Ryland said on the radio
Nope.
that he was doing some basketball stuff.
Oh, so you're snooping around, asking Ryland about Booth.
Well, I heard him on the radio say Booth was doing basketball stuff earlier this week.
That's great. No, that's what we got him on scholarship. He's out here trying to do some things, and, we'll see. Right now, I will tell you this. We've been pretty locked in defensively. 3 out of our last 4 opponents have scored 50-some points, and our guys have been connected, and that's always been a challenge for Booth. So I hope he comes back and joins us, but certainly we want to keep this standard up at defense, and he's got to be ready to jump into some of the improvement that we've made, and keeping our fingers crossed that he plays. But until I hear otherwise, and even when I hear, Dirk, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. It's good to see you guys. Dana, you've always been steady Eddie. Yeah.